All right, hi, I'm back again. We are reading The Borrowers, and we're on chapter 5. So what happened in the last one to get us caught up was that Pod and Arrietty Pod and Homily decided to tell Arrietty about what happened to Eglantine, and this was after Pod got seen. So, all right, chapter 5. Arrietty had not been asleep. She'd been lying under her knitted coverlet, staring up at the ceiling. It was an interesting ceiling. Pod had built Arrietty's bedroom out of 2 cigar boxes, and on the ceiling, lovely painted ladies dressed in swirls of chiffon blew long trumpets against the background of a blue sky. Below, there were feathery palm trees and small white houses set about a square. It was a glamorous scene, above all by candlelight, but tonight Arrietty was staring without seeing. The wood of the cigar box was thin, and Arrietty, lying straight and still under the quilt, had heard the rise and fall of worried voices. And she had heard her own name, and she had heard Homily exclaim, "Nuts and berries, that's what they eat!" And she had heard after a while a heartfelt cry of, "What shall we do?" So when Homily appeared beside her bed, she wrapped herself obediently in her quilt, and padding in her bare feet along the dusty passage, she joined her parents in the warmth of the kitchen. Crouched on her little stool, she sat, clasping her knees, shivering a little, and looking from one face to another. Homily came beside her, kneeling on the floor. She placed an arm around Arrietty's skinny shoulders. "Arrietty," she said gravely, "you know about upstairs?" "What about it?" asked Arrietty. "You know there are 2 giants?" "Yes," said Arrietty, "Great Aunt Sophie and Mrs. Driver." "That's right," said Homily, "and Cramp Furl is in the garden." She laid a roughened hand on Arrietty's clasped ones. "You know about Uncle Hendreary?" Arrietty thought a while. "He went abroad?" she said. "Emigrated," corrected Homily, "to the other side of the world with Aunt Loopy and all the children, to a badger set, a hole in a bank under a hawthorn hedge. Now, why do you think he did this?" "Oh," said Arrietty, her face alight, "to be out of doors, to lie in the sun, to run in the grass, to swing on twigs like birds do, to suck honey." "Nonsense, Arrietty!" exclaimed Homily sharply. "That's a nasty habit, and your Uncle Hendreary, a rheumatic sort of man, he emigrated," she went on, stressing the word, "because he was seen." "Oh," said Arrietty. "He was seen on the 23rd of April, 1892, by Rosa Pickhatchet on the drawing-room mantelpiece, of all places," she added suddenly in a wandering aside. "Oh," said Arrietty. "I've never heard, nor no one has ever seen fit to tell, why he went on the drawing-room mantelpiece in the first place. There is nothing on it, your father assures me, which cannot be seen from the floor or by standing sideways on the handle of the bureau and steadying yourself on the key. That's what your father does if he ever goes into the drawing-room." "They said it was a liver pill," put in Pod. "How do you mean?" asked Homily, startled. "A liver pill for Loopy," Pod spoke warily. "Someone started a rumor," he went on, "that there were liver pills on the drawing-room mantelpiece." "Oh," said Homily, looking thoughtful, "I never heard that." "All the same," she explained, "it was stupid and foolhardy. There's no way except the bell pull. She dusted him, they say, with a feather duster, and he stood so still alongside the Cupid that she might never have noticed him if he hadn't sneezed. She was new, you see, and she didn't know the ornaments. We heard her screeching right here under the kitchen. They could never get her to clean again, much after that. That wasn't chairs or tables, least of all the tiger skin rug." I don't hardly never bother with the drawing room," said Pod. "Everything's got its place, and they see what goes. There might be a little something left on the table or down by the side of a chair, but not without there's been company, and there's never is no company, not for the last 10 or 12 year. Sitting here in this chair, I can tell you by heart every blessed thing that's in the drawing room, working round from the cabinet by the window to the... There's a mint of things in that cabinet, interrupted Homily. Solid silver, some of them. A solid silver violin they got there, strings and all right for our Arietti. What's the good, asked Pod, of things behind glass? Couldn't you break it? Suggested Arietti. Just a corner, just a little tap, and just a... Her voice faltered as she saw the shocked amazement on her father's face. Listen here, Arietti, began Homily angrily, and then she controlled herself, patting Arietti's clasped hands. She don't know much about borrowing, she explained to Pod. You can't blame her. She turned again to Arietti. Borrowing's a skilled job, an art like. Of all the families who's been in this house, there's only us left. And do you know for why? Because your father, Arietti, is the best borrower that's ever been known in these parts since well before your granddad's time. Even your Aunt Loopy admitted that once. When he was younger, I seen your father walk the length of a laid dinner table after the gong was rung, taking a nut or a sweet from every dish and down by the fold of the tablecloth as the first people came in the door. He'd do it for fun, wouldn't you, Pod? Pod smiled wanly. There weren't no sense in it, he said. Maybe, said Homily, but you did it. Who else would dare? And this is a picture of Rosa Pickhatchet dusting. And you can see Uncle Hendry. There's the tiger rug she's standing on. I was younger then, said Pod. He sighed and turned to Arietti. Don't break things, lass. That's not the way to do it. That's not borrowing. We were rich then, said Homily. Oh, we did have some lovely things. You were only a tot, Arietti. You wouldn't remember. We had a whole suite of walnut furniture out of the doll's house, a set of wine glasses and green glass, and a musical snuff box. And the cousins would come, and we'd have parties. Do you remember, Pod? Not only the cousins. The harpsichords came. Everyone came, except those overmantels from the morning room. And we'd dance, and the young people would sit out in the grating. 3 tunes the snuff box played. Clementine, God Save the Queen, and Post-Chase Gallop. We were the envy of everybody, even the overmantels. Who were the overmantels? Asked Arietti. Oh, you must have heard me talk of the overmantels, exclaimed Homily. That stuck-up lot who lived in the wall, high up among the lath and plaster, behind the mantelpiece in the morning room. The queer lot they were. The men smoked all the time because the tobacco jars were kept there, and they'd climb about and in and out of the carvings on the overmantel, sliding down pillars and showing off. The women were a conceited lot too, always admiring selves in all those bits of overmantel looking-glass. They never asked anyone up there, and I, for one, never wanted to go. I had no head for heights, and your father never liked the men. He always lived steady, your father has. Not only the tobacco jars, but the whiskey decanters too were kept in the morning room, and they say those overmantel men would suck up the dregs in the glasses through those quill pipe cleaners they kept there on the mantelpiece. I don't know whether it's true, but they do say that those overmantel men used to have a party every Tuesday after the bailiff had been to talk business in the morning room. Laid out they'd be, dead drunk, or so the story goes, on the green plush tablecloth, all among the tin boxes and account books. Now, Homily, protested Pod, who didn't like gossip, I never seed 'em. But you wouldn't put it past them, Pod. You said it yourself when I married you not to call on the overmantels. They live so high, said Pod, that's all. Well, they were a lazy lot, that much you can't deny. They never had no kind of home life, kept themselves warm in winter by the heat of the morning room fire, and ate nothing but breakfast food. Breakfast, of course, was the only meal served in the morning room. What happened to them? Asked Arrietty. Well, when the master died, she took to her bed. There was no use for the morning room, so the overmantels had to go. What else could they do? No food, no fire. It was bitter cold in the winter. And the harpsichords? Asked Arrietty. Homily looked thoughtful. Well, they were different. I'm not saying they weren't stuck up too, but because they were. Your Aunt Loopy, who married your Uncle Hendreary, was a harpsichord by marriage. We all knew the airs she gave herself. Now, Homily, began Pod. Well, she'd no right to. She was only a rain-pipe from the stables before she married a harpsichord. Didn't she marry Uncle Hendreary? Asked Arrietty. Yes, later. She was a widow with 2 children, and he was a widower with 3. It's no good looking at me like that, Pod. You can't deny she took it out of poor Hendreary. She thought it was a come-down to marry a clock. Why? Asked Arrietty. Because we clocks live under the kitchen, that's why. Because we don't talk fancy grammar and eat anchovy toast. But to live under the kitchen doesn't say we aren't educated. The clocks are just as old a family as the harpsichords. You remember that, Arrietty, and don't let anyone tell you different. Your grandfather could count and write the numbers up to, what was it, Pod? 57, said Pod. There, said Homily, 57, and your father can count, you know, Arrietty. He can count and write down numbers and on, as far as it goes. How far does it go, Pod? Close on 1,000, said Pod. There, exclaimed Homily, and he knows the alphabet because he taught you, Arrietty, didn't he? He would have been able to read, wouldn't you, Pod? If we hadn't had to start borrowing so young. Your Uncle Hendreary and your father had to go out borrowing at 13. Your age, Arrietty. Think of it. But I should like, began Arrietty. So he didn't have your advantages, went on Homily breathlessly. And just because the harpsichords lived in the drawing room, they moved there in 1837 to a hole in the wainscot just behind where the harpsichord used to stand. If ever there was one, which I doubt, and were really a family named Linen Press or some such named, and changed it to harpsichord. What did they live on? Asked Arrietty. In the drawing room. Afternoon tea, said Homily. Nothing but afternoon tea. No wonder the children grew up peaky. Of course, in the old days it was better. Muffins and crumpets and such, and good rich cake and jam and jellies. And there was one old harpsichord who could remember syllabub on an evening. But they had to do their borrowing in such a rush, the poor things, on wet days when the human beings sat all afternoon in the drawing room. Tea would be brought up and taken away again without a chance of the harpsichords getting near it. On fine days it might be taken out into the garden. Loopy told me once that sometimes there were days and days when they lived on crumbs and water out of the flower vases. So you can't be too hard on them. Their only comfort, poor thing, was to show off a bit and wear evening dresses and talk like ladies and gentlemen. Did you ever hear your Aunt Loopy talk? Not that I can remember. Oh, you should have heard her say parquet. That's the stuff on the drawing room floors made out of. Parquet, parquet, she'd say. Oh, it was lovely. Come to think of it, your Aunt Loopy was the most stuck up of all. Arrietty's shivering, said Pod. We didn't get the little maid up to talk about Aunt Loopy. Nor we did, cried Homily, suddenly contrite. You should have stopped me, Pod. There, my lamb, tuck this quilt right around you, and I'll get you a nice drop of piping hot soup. And yet, said Pod, as Homily, fussing at the stove, labeled soup into the teacup. We did, in a way. Did what? Said Homily. Get her here to talk about Aunt Loopy. Aunt Loopy, Uncle Hendreary, and, he paused, Eggletina. Let her drink her soup first, said Homily. There's no call. Oh, wrong person. Let her drink her soup first, said Homily. There's no call for her to stop drinking, said Pod. And that's the end of chapter 5. So it's just getting good. All right. We'll be back for chapter 6. Love you.